Hello, and welcome to this week's church chat. Our theme this week is Christmas memories. And as I was reflecting through the week on our topic, I realized just how many different memories and settings there are, from church preparation to Christmas Eve services, uh, to family settings, both in Blue Springs and in England, and it was hard to choose which Christmas memory to share. Um, in the end, the one that sort of caused me to pause and to think was one Christmas when I was in seminary and being down in Dallas away from family. Um, I had to finish up with my studies and then make the long journey back home. And traveling through Oklahoma in December is not always a happy experience. And so I finished things up in Dallas, hopped in my car, and made that long journey through the plains and prairies of Oklahoma. On the way, snow started. It was blowing fiercely, and it was just, I was on my own. It was long, it was dreary, it was a little bit treacherous. And so when I arrived home and all the preparations were in hand, the food, family coming, it felt like a very welcome relief to finally get home and spend that time with family. Our scriptures tell of Joseph and Mary and Jesus making journeys. In Luke's gospel, it's to Bethlehem. In Matthew's gospel, um, they go to Bethlehem, but then they also journey on to Egypt to escape from the persecution that Herod inflicted on the children of that area. And so, um, as arduous and unpleasant as my journey was, I imagine that Joseph and Mary and Jesus faced something much worse and much more anxious. Um, so sometimes those journeys get us to a place of haven, whether that is Bethlehem or Egypt or the north corner of Grain Valley. And so I hope this season that wherever your journey takes you, it will be a journey of faith, and that wherever you end up, you will find welcome, that you will find comfort, that you will find support, and that you will find God's presence there. Randy and Lynn are going to share some of their memories, and hopefully we'll get a taste of Christmas as we are almost ready to celebrate.
I'm just going to real quickly and chronologically share half a dozen Christmas memories. This one was probably in 1948 because my little sister was there. But in our home, we often got stockings. We didn't have a mantle, so the stockings were hung on the table with care. And that's one of the first Christmases I remember. A couple years later, there was an even younger sister in the picture. And this was the other thing about our Christmases. We always had to eat breakfast first. My mother was determined we would have a nourishing breakfast before we got into all the packages and the junk, because she knew we'd never settle down. So that's my big brother, and in the lovely red bathrobe is me, Marcia, and Carol coming down for Christmas, and that would have been probably 1951. So I don't have pictures for the rest, but the next one that I thought of, without just dragging out everything, was in 1966 at Mark's family home, sitting on the couch, and the whole family was gathered around, and everybody had exchanged gifts. And Mark pulled out a tiny little jewelry box from a jeweler, and the whole crowd went crazy. And I looked at him because we knew we weren't doing anything like that yet. But what I got was this little necklace, and it was such a disappointment to everybody else in the room. Aunt Helen was just so sad. But that was kind of a funny Christmas. And the next one that I thought about was probably in 1976, probably, yeah, a decade later, because our daughter was 5. She had her birthday in November, and the Mason City, Iowa Gazette was running a column every week called Santa's Stocking. And she always wanted to hear about the poor kids. So I had weekly been telling her about the poor kids, and she took her birthday money when she was 5 and told me to send it to the newspaper for the poor kids. And that was a neat thing to happen that Christmas. Then Sid mentioned Oklahoma. Another couple decades later, we were driving from Texas to Iowa for Christmas. I don't know the year, probably would have been sometime in the 80s. But somewhere in Oklahoma, our heater went out on our nice car. It was a long, cold journey. We scraped windows to see out to get the rest of the way. Kids were in the back seat. They didn't seem to know it was cold. We had a lot of blankets, but it got really cold. And then it seemed like every year as we traveled, we moved from Texas to Arizona and then to Colorado. So we had a lot of long trips in the car to go home for Christmas. And every year it seemed like we brought a blizzard. So I think that's, then the last one I was going to say was 2 years ago when at a little before 6 o'clock in the morning, Mark and I got into the extended stay in Overland Park, Kansas, and climbed 3 flights of stairs and knocked on a given door and handed in a lot of gifts and stuff that Crossroads had given to a family in need. So that was a real nice Christmas and a very early way to start it.
So growing up, my brother and I grew up right at about the start of the action figure craze. And Fisher-Price had come out with a set called The Adventure People, and they had all kinds of cool stuff that they could do, go on safaris and go camping and kayaking and canoeing, ride dirt bikes and go parachuting and stuff. Shortly after that, Star Wars came out. And so then they came out with the Star Wars figures, Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader and all of them. So when thinking about Christmas memories, I reflected back on my favorite Christmas ornament, which was when my mom got out the nativity scene set. And it was a set of individual figures. I don't know if they were porcelain or plaster or what they were, but there was individual figures. We had the 3 kings, we had the shepherd and 2 or 3 sheep, and the cow and the donkey and Joseph and Mary and baby Jesus in the manger. And it fascinated my brother and I every year. And so we would just fixate on the individual pieces. We would just be amazed at the detail of the craftsmanship, the colors that they were painted, and just how intricate everything was. But being dumb kids, we invariably dropped a few of the pieces, or maybe all of them actually. And so over the years, when Mom would set out the nativity scene, Joseph, the shepherd, at least 1 or 2 of the kings would have little marks across their necks where Mom had glued their heads back on. The shepherd became the caretaker for a 3-legged sheep, and the set got pretty beat up over the years. And I don't know if my mom still has that nativity set or not, or if she figured those folks had seen better days and replaced it with a new set or not. But as I was reflecting on it, it made me think of, now that I'm older, how much more meaning that nativity set actually has to me now. Because the reality is that Jesus came for the beat up, the broken, the folks that had seen better days. So this Christmas, hopefully none of us are going to do swan dives off of the fireplace mantle and lose our head, but we should be able to find some hope that Jesus came to make us perfect in our unperfectness. So Merry Christmas.
So thank you to Lynn and Randy for sharing those Christmas memories. As Lynn was talking about growing up with her siblings, I recalled a conversation with my wife about her experience of growing up in England. And the thing that surprised me was that she and her two brothers, and then years later her third brother, would often get up so early in the morning, like at 2 in the morning, to begin to open presents, because they were so excited about Christmas that they just couldn't sleep. And I was surprised that their parents allowed that, but she remembered coming down the stairs and opening presents with her brothers. I hope we can capture some of that excitement and that restlessness and that anticipation in our own celebrations. What also comes to mind is that all over the world, people are making memories, and the memories that are important are those items, presents, places, food that bring family together, that exemplify love. And so whatever the memory, whatever the occasion, whatever the situation, love for family and love for God is at the center. And so I hope you feel that love and the presence of God as you celebrate Christmas. I think there's probably a lot more memories out there, and so next week we'll be sharing memories as well. So over the week, I hope you will think about Christmases of the past, how you're going to spend this Christmas, and how moving into the future we can make Christmas and following Christ even more important in our lives. I wish you God's blessing in your preparations, and I hope that you have a happy and blessed Christmas.